Alright, let's look at what happened on Season 1 of The Wheel of Time. Our story takes place in the Westlands, a vast area ruled by kings and queens, but the true power lies in the White Tower of Tarvalin with the Aes Sedai, women who can wield magic known as the One Power. In this land, time is cyclical in nature, and events are woven like a tapestry, set to unravel and start again with the next turn of the wheel. We meet Moiraine, an Aes Sedai who is tracking down people of a certain age because of a prophecy. Magic used to be controlled by both men and women, but some time ago the world was broken by a male channeler known as the Dragon, who attempted to imprison an evil enemy called the Dark One. After the breaking, the male half of the power was tainted, causing madness in any men who use it. Moiraine's prophecy says that the dragon has been born again, and will either fix the world or break it further. We see a group of Aes Sedai track down a seemingly madman who can channel, and cut him off from the source, which they refer to as gentling. Moiraine is watching with Lan, her warder, a special kind of dedicated bodyguard. She proclaims that this man is not the dragon, and they must travel to the Two Rivers where there are 4 potential dragons she calls ta'veren. Emond's Field is a small mountain town in the Two Rivers, far removed from the political workings of the rest of the Westlands. Here is where we meet our other main characters. Egwene gets her hair braided as an initiation into the women's circle by Nynaeve, the village wisdom. Rand travels to the village with his father Tam and meets up with his 2 best friends. Perrin is a blacksmith and apparently married to a lovely young lady named Layla. Matt is a smooth talker with terrible parents who loves gambling almost as much as he loves his sisters. The Beltane celebrations stop when Moiraine walks in. They don't see many Aes Sedai in these parts. That night, a mysterious rider with a strange face shows up in town. The next day, childhood sweethearts Egwene and Rand discuss her becoming a wisdom, which would mean no husband and no kids. They argue, and Rand leaves in a huff. The peddler, Potom Fane, shows up for the festival and trades with Matt. Moiraine visits Nynaeve and talks to her about being a wisdom at such a young age. Nynaeve is openly hostile, explaining that her mentor was turned away from the White Tower for being poor. Meanwhile, Lan finds animals slaughtered in the woods. He returns to Moiraine and tells her they need to go. During the festivities, a band of monsters known as Trollocs attack the town. Matt takes his sisters to hide in the woods. Perrin retreats to his house with his wife, but they end up fighting Trollocs. Perrin takes one down and goes into a frenzy. Then, swinging wildly, he accidentally hits Layla, who quickly succumbs to the fatal wound. Man, that is brutal. Egwene and Nynaeve are trying to help injured people to safety, but a Trolloc appears and drags off Nynaeve. A Trolloc also breaks into Rand's house, where Tam pulls a sword from under the bed. Notice the heron mark, and fights impressively. Finally, Rand finishes the monster from behind, but Tam is injured. Moiraine and Lan use their skills to fight off the Trollocs. Moiraine gets injured, but summons all her power and throws bricks at the horde and takes them all down before collapsing to her knees. Rand brings his wounded father to the village and sees the aftermath of the terrible attack. Moiraine heals Tam before telling them that more Trollocs are coming. She explains that one of them is the Dragon Reborn, and that's why the village was attacked. With varying levels of hesitancy, Rand, Matt, Perrin, and Egwene follow her to lead the Trollocs away from their loved ones. Now we are introduced to the Children of the Light, known as the White Cloaks. They are an army of religious zealots who hate Aes Sedai, and we see Valda burning one at the stake. His collection of Aes Sedai rings suggests she is not the first. Our crew comes to a ferry, which they manage to cross and separate themselves from the Trollocs. They get their first look at the creature commanding the Trollocs, known as the Eyeless, or a Fade. After witnessing the ferryman dive to his own death, they begin to have doubts. On the journey, Moiraine uses her power to rejuvenate everyone, and the horses. She reminds them of the 3 O's of the Aes Sedai. 1. Speak no word that is not true. 2. To make no weapon with which one person may kill another. 3. Never to use the One Power as a weapon, except in the last extreme defense of her own life, or the life of her warder, or another Aes Sedai. Moiraine shows Egwene that she has access to the One Power, saying she would be welcome at the White Tower. The Emond's Fielders all have a shared dream about bats and a tall, ember-eyed figure. Rand has had enough and confronts Moiraine, who calmly leaves. Egwene says she trusts her, and Mat says they've got each other and that's it, so they all follow. They run into the White Cloaks, where Moiraine must pretend not to be an Aes Sedai. Valda discovers her wound and they are told it's Trolloc poison that can only be healed by an Aes Sedai. As they ride away, Egwene asks Moiraine how she was able to lie, and she responds saying, "She didn't. You must listen carefully to the words spoken." They decide to stop and rest because Moiraine is getting weaker. Rand and Egwene continue fighting, and Perrin has a strange encounter with some wolves. The Trollocs catch up with them in the night and they have to flee. Moiraine won't wake up, so Lan leads them to the city of Shadar Logoth. As they approach, they see that the Trollocs won't follow through the city. Once safe in a building, Lan tells them to touch nothing and eat only food they brought, as evil itself has grown from the city's heart. Mat wakes up and follows a shadow to a small room where he finds a chest containing an ornate dagger. Blackness begins to envelop the city and disintegrates one of the horses. Trying to escape it, they get split up. Perrin and Egwene flee up and have to jump off the city wall into the water. Rand and Mat go through a small tunnel and barely escape the blackness. Lan rides Moiraine to safety through the gates of the city. As he tends to Moiraine, a knife appears at his neck. Nynaeve demands to know where her people are. Perrin and Egwene are chased by wolves, until they come upon a band of travelers known as the Tinkers. Isla asks if they know the song, and Aram steps forward to help them say no properly. The duo is told they are welcome to join them as they travel to Tarvalon. Mat and Rand end up in a small village called Breen's Spring, where they see a corpse in a cage on the way in. In the tavern, they meet a gleeman named Tom Maryland, who sings a song about the original dragon. They convince a barmaid named Dana to let them work for lodging for the night. Mat leaves Rand to do the work alone and goes to steal a jewel he had seen on the body in the cage. Tom finds him and explains the man was an Aiel, killed because the villagers feared the unknown. He lets Mat loot the body, but insists they bury him. Meanwhile, Rand is getting friendly with Dana when she tries to kiss him. He stops her and she suddenly changes demeanor and pulls a sword on him. Trapped behind a heavy door, Rand is somehow able to break through and run, finding Mat along the way. Dana chases them through the town and tells him she has dreamt of the 5 of them. One of them is the dragon, and she is planning to turn them over to the Dark One, who she believes will fix everything. She says a fate is on its way when Tom takes her out with a dagger to the throat. He says she's a dark friend and they need to leave now. Lan explains the situation to Nynaeve, but she attacks. I love how he sounds impressed when he says, "You actually tried to kill me." He subdues her and eventually convinces her to use her healing talents to help Moiraine. Eventually, Moiraine is able to travel and they ride until they meet another Aes Sedai. Liandrin says we've caught the man calling himself the Dragon Reborn and introduces them to a caged man named Loghain. We see a flashback of Loghain gaining control of Geldon and recruiting the king. Moiraine is healed by Karenni, who seems strained. She explains that keeping Loghain shielded is taking round-the-clock effort from multiple sisters. Liandrin is pushing to gentle him, but it would go against Tower law as he must stand trial first. Lan is practicing with Karenni's warder, Stepan, while Moiraine takes a turn shielding Loghain with Alana, who probes her for information. Liandrin takes a moment to talk to Nynaeve about the different Ajahs within the Aes Sedai. She is a Red who act kind of like magic police, tracking down men who can channel and keeping other Aes Sedai in check. Greens are the Battle Ajah, and she calls Blues sneaky as they tend to have covert missions. Here's a quick list of all the Ajahs. Pause if you want to read more about each one. Perrin is helping out around the Tinker camp, and Isla teaches him more about their nonviolent philosophy, known as the Way of the Leaf. She speaks of her daughter who was killed by bandits, and asks, what greater revenge against violence is there than peace? Egwene gets to know Aram, who tells her the song is supposedly an ancient tune that would bring harmony to the world. Rand, Mat, and Tom seek shelter at a small farm. The family agrees to let them sleep in the barn in exchange for cleaning it out. Noticing Mat's surly demeanor, Tom says he sees the signs of a man who can channel, having experienced it with his nephew. He warns Rand that Aes Sedai would try to gentle Mat, and after touching the power, when it gets severed, the man slowly slips away. That night, Rand has a disturbing dream about his friends and the fiery-eyed man. Tom wakes him up and Mat is gone. They find him standing in the farmhouse, the family having been slaughtered. Mat points with the dagger from Shadar Logoth and says, "I see you." A Fade leaps out of the darkness, and Tom jumps forward to battle it, shouting for the boys to leave. They quickly ride away from the farmhouse on horseback, leaving Tom behind. Nynaeve opts to join the warders around the campfire for the evening and learns more about their bonds. They explain that they are not servants to the Aes Sedai. Rather, Aes Sedai literally means servant of all, and it is they who serve the world. Nynaeve follows Lan, who is performing a ritual of his people. They bond over both losing their family, and the chemistry is palpable between them, full of mutual respect and attraction. A horn sounds in the distance, signaling the camp is being attacked by Loghain's men. Alanna and her warders lead the fight against the army. In the cave, Loghain explodes with magic, knocking out Liandrin and Karenni. Moiraine walks in and asks him why she should believe he is the dragon reborn. He says he can hear the whispers of the thousands of dragons before him. Moiraine tells him that the voices are the whispers of madness, and while he is strong, his power is but a trickle compared to the raging sun that will be the dragon reborn. The others wake and the three sisters attempt to shield him again. Loghain fights it, and Karenni is killed in the process. Outside, Steppen can feel her death. Alanna protects them as they run to the cave. Steppen rages at the sight of Karenni and attempts to kill Loghain, who uses the break in the shield to shower them all with shards of rock, mortally wounding everyone, including Lan. Nynaeve runs in, sees Lan, and kneels to help him. Overcome with emotion, Nynaeve explodes with magic, healing all the wounds from the shards. Loghain looks on in shock and says, "Like a raging sun." Moving quickly, the remaining Aes Sedai gentle Loghain. The camp holds a funeral for the casualties of the battle, with Steppen carrying Karenni to her final resting place. The group then travels for a month to the White Tower. Moiraine and Lan discuss concerns for Steppen, as warders are not prepared to outlive their Aes Sedai. Moiraine arranges for Nynaeve to stay at the warders' quarters for her own safety. She explains that she has eyes and ears all over the city, and if the others arrive, she will know. Rand and Mat also reach the White City and find a place to stay. Mat is looking sicker than ever and is prone to outbursts. Rand meets an Ogier in the library named Loyal, who insists that Rand is an Aiel because of his red hair. The Tinkers are nearing Tarvalin as well, but get stopped by the White Cloaks. Valda demands Egwene and Perrin be brought to him. The Tinkers link arms and refuse to give up the duo, facing violent consequences. Aram tries to lead the pair away, but the White Cloaks track them down and capture them. Mat and Rand watch as Steppen leads the procession through town, the crowd gasping at Karenni's vacant horse and throwing produce at the caged Loghain. When Loghain meets their gaze, he laughs maniacally, and Mat and Rand promise to never let each other succumb to the madness like that. Valda interrogates Egwene and Perrin. He believes she can channel and begins torturing Perrin to get her to confess. After Perrin confesses what happened with Layla, Egwene manages to channel, distracting Valda with a small fireball while she also weakens Perrin's restraints. In a rage, Perrin breaks free and his eyes turn golden. He postures at Valda while Egwene grabs a dagger and stabs him from behind. She grabs the collection of Aes Sedai rings before they run out of the tent. They find the rest of the camp being attacked by wolves. When they stand off with a wolf, Perrin assures her the wolves won't hurt them, and they escape. Steppen visits Nynaeve and asks for the tea she had given him to help him sleep. Lan is concerned about his friend and offers to stay with him for the night. Alanna talks to Moiraine and warns her that Liandrin has it out for her, and the Amerlin Sea is returning soon. Loyal brings Nynaeve to Rand and Mat, who looks pleased she is alive and then snaps at her trying to help him. The next morning, Lan wakes on the floor and puts together that Steppen had given him the tea instead. He runs through the tower, but finds Steppen having taken his own life. They then have a bizarre funeral ritual for Steppen that involves a lot of chest beating, ending with Lan ripping his shirt and howling with grief. Now we see a flashback of the story of Swan Sanche. the current leader of the Aes Sedai known as the Amyrlin Seat. She has humble beginnings in a fishing hut in Tyr, and tearfully leaves her father behind as she journeys to the White Tower. Back in the present, a fully grown and regal-looking swan enters the Great Hall. She demands the false dragon be brought before her. Loghain tries to provoke her, hoping for a death sentence, but she sees through it and makes an example of him. Swan then takes the women to task for gentling him without a trial. Liandrin is given the blame as she was in charge at the time, but she quickly throws Moiraine under the bus, making a big production in front of the hall. Swan demands to know what Moiraine has been doing, but she refuses to tell, getting her in even more trouble. Swan makes Moiraine literally beg for mercy. She says final judgment will be tomorrow. Moiraine finally gets word that Mat and Rand are in the city, and Lan finds them. When she enters, she sees Mat's issue immediately. Rand tries to stop her, but Lan easily subdues him. Mat attacks her with the dagger. Moiraine identifies it as from Shadar Logoth and severs the connection between Mat and the dagger. Moiraine meets with Megan, the head of the Blue Aja, who says she will intervene on Moraine's behalf, but she will have to stay in the tower from now on. Moiraine receives a secret message and goes to find Perrin and Egwene, who are being healed by yellows in the city. Egwene gives her the ring she took from Valda and tells her about Perrin's yellow eyes and the wolves. Moiraine commands her to tell no one. Lan comes in and finds Moiraine looking ready for bed. He asks her why she masked their bond, but seems to quickly realize the answer. He says he will stand guard and sends his love. Moiraine walks to her fireplace and activates a portal of some kind. She steps through and appears in a fishing hut before a much more casual-looking Swan Sanche. It becomes clear that the scene earlier that day was all an act. Not only are the two romantically involved, but also share the secret plan of finding the dragon reborn. Moiraine tells her she still isn't sure which of the 5 is the dragon, and thinks it could be all of them. They develop a plan as the Dark One's strength is growing, making the matter urgent. The next day, Liandrin tries to blackmail Moiraine with information about the Two Rivers crew, but she has dirt on Liandrin as well, neutralizing that threat. Moiraine asks Loial for help with their plan, and he agrees. She then takes Egwene and Nynaeve to meet Swan, who impresses on them the importance of this mission. In the Great Hall, Swan sentences Moiraine to expulsion from the tower, making her swear on the oath rod that she will not come back until Swan calls for her. As she leaves, all the Aes Sedai turn their backs to her. She then rides out of town to a stone archway and waits. Loial shows up, followed by the rest of the crew in turn. They are all happy to see each other alive and well. They demand to know what they are doing. Loial explains that this is a waygate, allowing you to travel great distances. Moiraine then tells them that they are going to the Eye of the World to defeat the Dark One. She opens a portal on the gate and steps through. They all follow, except for Mat. They yell for him to hurry as the gate closes, with him still on the other side. The friends demand to go back for him, but Moiraine says they can't. She later suggests to Lan that she intended for him to stay behind because he is tainted with the darkness. Loial is there to read the guideposts and find their path in the ways. They are warned not to use the One Power as it would attract Machin Shin, an evil entity that lives in the ways. Loial is distressed that the guiding stones have been damaged. It will take some time to decipher. A creature jumps down and Egwene attempts to stop it, Rand at her side. She accidentally uses the One Power and wakes Machin Shin, who attacks. They run the way Loial indicates and Moiraine scrambles to open an exit. Machin Shin speaks in their heads, playing on their deepest fears. This drives Nynaeve mad, and she once again erupts with power, shielding them until Moiraine is able to finish. They quickly go through the portal and find themselves in Faldara, a day's walk from the Eye of the World. Lord Agelmar and his sister Amalisa welcome them. Moiraine tells them the Dark One is using the ways to transport his armies. As they are talking, we see Podham Fane emerge from the gate. Moiraine talks with Amalisa, who once trained to be an Aes Sedai but didn't have enough power to become a full sister. She takes the Emmons Fielders to a tavern where she meets with a seer named Min Farsha, hoping to discover which of the friends is the dragon. Min can't tell, but says they are all linked and important to the pattern. Moiraine reveals to them that any of them who are not the dragon will die in the eye, and gives them the night to decide if they will go. There's an awkward moment about a love triangle with Egwene, Rand, and Perrin. I hated it, but it's there. Lan is from the area and visits old friends. Nynaeve follows him. Not wanting to be seen, she turns to go, but Lan is behind her and invites her inside. After an informative evening, they say an awkward goodbye, obviously both wanting more. As Lan undresses, Nynaeve comes in and they finally share a kiss. After their long-awaited dalliance, Lan reveals to Nynaeve that he was actually the Prince of Malkyr, an area now enveloped by the Blight. Rand and Egwene make up and decide they would come back and he would be her warder when she became an Aes Sedai. After they hook up, Rand has a dream about the night Trollocs attacked his home and the things his father said. He realizes that he has been channeling, remembering both the door he broke down and the moment in the ways. He goes to Min, who helps him piece together that his mother was a fierce Aiel woman who gave birth to him on Dragonmount during a battle. Tam found her and brought the baby home to raise in Emond's Field. The crew meet up in the morning, having decided to go, but Lan shows up and they realize that Rand and Moiraine have already left for the Eye. Now we see a glimpse of the world 3,000 years ago. The original dragon, Luz Theron Telamon, is preparing to trap the Dark One. It's the moments before he broke the world and tainted the male half of the Source. Out the window, we see a very futuristic-looking city. Moiraine and Rand travel through the Blight. They see the 7 towers that once belonged to Lan's kingdom. They stop for a short rest, and Rand dreams of the Dark One, who calls him Luz Theron and taunts him about his father. Rand realizes it's a dream and stabs himself to wake up. Nynaeve teaches Lan how she tracked Moiraine before, and he goes into the Blight searching for them. Moiraine gives Rand a sa'angreal that will multiply his power 100-fold to use against the Dark One. They see an army marching toward the city, but Moiraine says they must complete their task. It's the only way to save everyone. The city prepares for battle. Lord Agelmar believes the last battle has begun and orders them to retrieve the Horn of Valir, a powerful artifact that summons the great heroes of the pattern. The men of the city ride to the gap while the women stay behind to protect the city. Amalisa calls for all women who can channel even a trickle, and Nynaeve and Egwene decide to help. Perrin is conflicted, wanting to follow the way of the leaf, but also wanting to help his friends. He and Loial end up helping the soldiers as they attempt to retrieve the horn. Moiraine and Rand reach the Eye. When he kneels to touch the symbol in the middle, Rand has visions of the past and is transported back to his home in Emond's Field. Egwene is there with a baby, his baby. This is his greatest fantasy realized. The Dark One appears and says he can show Rand how to make this real. He coaches Rand on how to gather the power. At the same time, the Dark One appears to Moiraine, and she attacks him. He responds by cutting her off from the power. He taunts her about whether Rand will choose the dark or the light. Moiraine grabs a dagger and puts it against Rand's throat, saying if he doesn't choose the light, she will choose for him. The army breaks through the gap, and Amalisa calls for them all to link together. She summons the One Power and unleashes a lightning storm on the approaching army. The power is so great that the women begin to burn out. Nynaeve grabs Egwene and siphons off enough power to keep Egwene from burning out, but collapses herself. Potom Fain distracts Perrin and attacks the soldiers and Loial, getting his hands on the chest containing the horn. When Perrin returns, Fain tells him all 5 of the Two Rivers folks have a part to play. Balance means that some of them will turn to the shadow, and as he leaves with the Fades, we get a little glimpse of Mat looking sinister. Rand holds the power and slowly moves his hand to his pocket, touching the sa'angreal Moiraine had given him. The power explodes and the Dark One disappears. Rand stands before a questioning Moiraine and says, "I did it." Amalisa burns out as the army falls, and Egwene tearfully grabs Nynaeve. We see a whoosh of the One Power, and Nynaeve is healed. Rand asks Moiraine to tell everyone he died. He felt the madness and doesn't want his loved ones in danger because of him. She asks where he will go, but he just tells her goodbye and heads out. She sits for a while holding a shard of heartstone. Lan shows up and she tells him Rand is gone. He asks her to unmask the bond, but she admits she can't touch the source. They look at the broken piece of heartstone, which supposedly nothing could break. Lan asks what it means, and Moiraine says it means that this wasn't the last battle. She fears it was the first. Finally, we have a small glimpse of something to come. A little girl is playing on the beach when a fleet of ships appear. On board the ship are heavily armored soldiers and 2 women who use magic to create a giant tidal wave. And that's where we end Season 1 of The Wheel of Time. Thanks for watching. This was a lot to get through. If you liked the video, please take a moment to subscribe to my channel. It helps me continue to make this content. And until next time, may you always find water and shade.